Before we turn our attention to this week's pizza, which is St. Louis style, let's discuss what it is, because outside of the Midwestern US, I don't think it has much mindshare. St. Louis style pizza appears to have originated in the 1940s. This is a time when pizza was beginning to work its way across the country from the East Coast, and along the way, it began to take different forms based on local tastes, and in some cases, was created by chefs who never actually had a pizza. In the 1940s, a local restaurant started serving their version of pizza with thin, firm, yeastless crust. Later, into the 1950s and the 60s, this popular local style of pizza saw the addition and then standardization of using Provel, a local cheese product, comprised of cheddar, provolone, and Swiss cheeses, with the addition of some smoke flavor. The makeup of Provel, which is largely unheard of outside the local area, has changed a bit over the years. For example, it didn't originally have Swiss cheese in it. What pizzeria originally used Provel seems contested, but Emo's Pizza, founded back in 1964, seems to be the biggest standard bearer for St. Louis-style pizza, with over 100 restaurants in 3 states. St. Louis-style pizza is described with the following characteristics: a thin, crisp, yeastless crust, cheese and toppings spread right to the edge, cut square. Some accounts have the sauce be somewhat sweet, others say it has a distinctly oregano flavor. And Provel cheese with no mozzarella. Prior to this week's pizza adventure, I had never tasted one, never even seen one, and have only description to know what to expect. We are here at Frasher's Smokehouse. And yes, it's a barbecue place. And yes, we're here about the pizza. Maybe it's not as weird as it sounds. If you're from St. Louis and you're here in the Phoenix area, Frasher's is a taste of home. And St. Louis cuisine isn't just barbecue, it's also St. Louis style pizza. Let's find out what it's like. Somewhere back in the deep recesses of my mind, I think I'd heard of St. Louis pizza before. However, when I was making one of these prior videos, I stumbled across a mention of St. Louis pizza, and it brought it to the forefront of my mind. For giggles, I binged St. Louis pizza in Arizona, and beyond all sanity and expectations, up popped a local popular barbecue restaurant, Frasher's Smokehouse. Thin cracker-like pizzas aren't my first choice, but I can enjoy one from time to time. From outward appearances, a St. Louis pizza doesn't look that much different than a Domino's or Pizza Hut thin crust pizza. My biggest concern was the Provel. Cheddar, Swiss, provolone, these are all cheeses I like in their place. And I have had some pizzas that mix some of these in with the mozzarella as a flavor counterpoint. But the idea of no mozzarella at all? Not gonna lie, that just doesn't sound good. And I cannot ever recall any food that liquid smoke improves. So let me anticipate a couple of objections that you may put forth. Totally legitimate ones that trouble me too. Problem number 1. I've never had a St. Louis style pizza of any kind. I have absolutely no reference point to judge this against. Unlike something like a Chicago deep dish pizza, where although I have not actually been in Chicago and had a pizza, I have had pizzas from 4 of the major Chicago pizza names. So I have something to compare it to that has a certain level of authenticity. I've just not got that here, and I will try to weave that caveat into my observations as best I can. And problem 2, don't go to a barbecue place for pizza. Yeah, I kind of totally agree, but as you will see, not only is there no alternative, but it's not as beyond the pale as it might first appear. And second, if they put it on their menu, they don't get a free pass just because that's not their specialty. If they can't make it well, they shouldn't serve it. Chiding the consumer is victim blaming. These concerns still have some validity, but will not stop me from having a pizza, nor can they stop me from deciding if I like a pizza or not. Frasher's Smokehouse has been on Indian School Road since 2015, when it evolved from a former steakhouse location in Scottsdale, and it's a well-regarded restaurant. With ties to St. Louis, it's also become a bit of a standard bearer for the regional foods for locals who hail from St. Louis. I arrived on Saturday, the 8th of February 2025 at around 11:45 a.m. They were pretty much empty, and I overheard a conversation among the staff that it was unusually quiet for a Saturday. It may have been in part due to an automobile accident about 3/4 of a block away that was just beginning to restrict traffic as I arrived. The restaurant is good-sized, has a very large outdoor patio, a large parking lot, and a bike rack. If you like barbecue, this place smells heavenly. As I walked in the door, I almost abandoned my plan to have pizza and just get some ribs or brisket. However, I knew that it would just postpone the inevitable because my curiosity would not allow me not to try the pizza eventually. The waiter came over to take my order. I said to him, "Oh, the barbecue smells so good, but I understand you are the only place within hundreds of miles that has..." "Oh, Provel cheese? Yes," he said, cutting me off. "You want a pizza, right?" So apparently it's not so unusual that people come to Frasher's for the pizza. A few minutes later, an elderly couple came in and seated themselves, and a waitress came over to them, bringing them the menus, and the woman held up her hand. "Oh, honey, we don't need menus. We're regulars. Bring us 2 10-inch pizzas, 1 cheese, 1 the works." That seemed promising too. My optimism was rising. But let's get to the pizza. When it arrived, it was not the most appetizing looking pizza I've ever seen. One of the desired qualities of Provel is how well it melts. Similar to the way American cheese melts, but it doesn't look that great melted over the top with a very thin crust. There's no way for me to put this otherwise. I'm not a fan of that cheese. I could taste what was probably the cheddar, certainly a bit of the provolone, and it has a... I don't know how to describe it. Is it a taste? Is it a texture that modifies the taste? I don't know, but there's something in there that when the cheese is quite thick reminds me of melted American cheese. The supposed liquid smoke inclusion wasn't that obvious, although occasionally I get a hint of it. Or perhaps that's because I was in a smokehouse overwhelming my senses with the aroma of pecan wood and barbecue. My assessment of this pizza isn't going to recover from this. Provel is not suitable for pizzas. I bought a pizza made with Provel. I cannot fault them for that, but it's not for me. It melts weirdly, it tears apart weirdly, most damningly, it tastes weird. It has no place on a pizza. Let's carry on to the sauce. Again, referring to online information, I was expecting a sweeter sauce, and I really couldn't tell if it was sweet or not. Something about the way the Provel melted basically bound it inextricably with the sauce. I just couldn't get a taste of the sauce minus the taste of the Provel, which we've already established is not a good flavor. The pepperoni, like the sauce, seemed somehow cross-contaminated by the cheese. The Provel permeated almost every aspect of this pizza. If that's what you're expecting and what you want, I don't think I can pass judgment other than it's not for me. One thing I can judge, though, the crust. Yeastless cracker-like crust. That was not this. It may have been yeastless, but it wasn't cracker-like. It was soft everywhere, except at the edges. When I get a thin crust pizza of pretty much any variety, I expect it to be crunchy all across the bottom. That's what I want when I get a thin crust pizza, and also that's what I'm led to believe is the standard for St. Louis style pizza, going all the way back to the 1940s. In this case, I'm pretty sure this is a failure of execution in cooking this pizza. This was not a pizza for me, but I will say this. It was a bit two-faced. The middle was soft and awash with the Provel, and it was a slog for me to eat. But the outer small pieces, which were crunchy and had much less Provel on them, were better, but they were the minority of pieces. There was one cracker-like aspect to the crust. When it was crunchy, when it was unencumbered by the Provel, it did taste a bit like an unsalted saltine cracker. I was trying something a bit different with the filming of this review, and that led to a series of technical glitches, one of which is that I failed to measure the actual pizza before starting to eat. I referred back to a reference picture that I took, and I snapped a measurement of the pan at the points where the pizza spread to. This pizza, advertised as 10 inches, was 25 centimeters in diameter and cost $17. That is 491 square centimeters and cost per square centimeter of 3.5 cents, making it one of the most expensive pizzas so far. So where do I put this pizza on the tier list? The signature component, the Provel, is not to my liking, and it contaminated the other toppings. That may be exactly right, but it's not to my liking. I cannot give a top-tier score for that reason alone. I can fault them on the crust, though. I'm certain it was not meant to be the way it was. If it had been crispy right through to the center, it might have offset some of the cheese. In good conscience, I have to give this a D. I will not be going back for the pizza. Do I have a judgment on St. Louis style pizza as a whole, though? Well, yes and no. Obviously, Provel is going to be a problem for me. And if they all use it, and it's all the same, because there is only the one manufacturer of Provel, then I don't like St. Louis style pizza. Even knowing that, if I'm ever in the St. Louis area, I'd still probably stop in an Imo's Pizza and give one a try. Or if you just really feel I need to try one sooner, you can always go to buymeacoffee.com/pizzalocus and fund one, because they do ship a 4-pack of pizzas for only about $75 anywhere pretty much in continental US. But until either of those things happen, I think I'll just go back to forgetting that St. Louis style pizza exists at all. Next time, we'll try something a little more traditional, and we'll try another one of Phoenix's popular New York style pizza restaurants. And until then, I hope you get a chance to get out and have a great slice of pizza.